Hey everybody, Wes with Fundamental Games here. Just going to do a example of how to play Roll or Die. So this is a print and play game. It's not being manufactured and sent in boxes or anything. It'll be on Kickstarter and then possibly on a website later. And basically for $5 US or somewhere thereabouts, you'll get all the files for 9 creatures, the score sheet, the rules, and any other content that gets released with the Kickstarter. But without further ado, how do you play Roll or Die? First thing is you print out a blank player sheet or a score sheet. So I've got that there. You will print out your creatures and pick one to battle against. I'm going to play the easiest one right now. I just printed them on paper as a true print and play. Keep it low budget for now. But I'm going to play against the kobolds. They don't actually have an ability. You just have to beat their score. That's so that we don't have to worry about rules too much, just the main mechanics of the game. Some other examples might be the Dilatinous Cube, who's immune to hero pair attacks, or the Die Rake, who has a special effect. If you roll a 1 on d20, it really likes your tragic failures. But we're not going to play against those right now and the other creatures you may see in the Kickstarter campaign. So what happens is on a turn, you get 4 actions. That's represented by the d4. You're never going to roll the d4 because, well, who really likes rolling d4s? They don't really roll. They kind of fall and sometimes drop a few spaces. But I use that to track actions. Very similar to the Die in the Dungeon game that I'd made with this same character and universe. But your first action, when you put the die to a 1, is to roll the other 5 polyhedral dice. So I'm going to roll these dice. That's my first action. All right, so all the numbers I have to stay in their positions until I choose what to do for my second action. So every one of my actions, and I get 3 more, I get to either roll any number of polyhedral dice, doesn't matter which ones, I can roll all 5, 4, 3, 2, doesn't matter. Or I can choose any one die and rotate it up or down by 1 number. And in some cases, you may want to rotate down in order to form a straight or a low roll. In some cases, you may want to rotate it up to get a higher number or to get matching numbers, whatever the case is. So what I'm going to do in this particular example is I have an 8 that I want to keep, and I'm going to say I want to roll the rest of the dice. So as my second action, I rotate this to a 2. I'm going to set that to the side and roll these 4 dice. So I roll those dice, see what I end up with. I have a 6 and a 7. That's not too bad if I want to get a straight. And I've got 2 dice left. I'm going to rotate this to a 3 and just roll these 2 dice. Here we go. We have an 8 and a 3. You're not allowed to use the rotate action on the d20. It is a special die, so it's not allowed to be manipulated as such. So in this case, I don't quite have what I need for a straight. I'm going to do one more action and try rolling these 2 dice one more time. So I've got a 7 and a 4. So some of the things that I may want to do on my sheet, I'm going to have 33 turns of doing this. I can do dice pairs, d6, d8, d8, d10, d8, d12, and d10, d12. So I could pick, for example, d8 and d12, and I could put 15 in that there box. And I can do that 3 times in the game with any of these dice pairs. So that's like a combination attack for these, for the fighter and the rogue, or the fighter and the cleric, or the wizard and the cleric, etc. So that's what I get to do up here. The other options I have is to do a combine attack. So I can just take all of the dice I rolled and put a number there, excluding the 20. That doesn't get added unless it specifically shows the d20 icon. I could do a sequential attack. I'd have to have 4 sequential numbers. So that might mean 4, 5, 6, 7, or 7, 8, 9, 10. So I don't have that right now. A defend effect would mean that all of my dice together, again, not including the d20 or the d4, just these 4 dice would have to be less than 20 for me to get that, and then I would get 20 points. A high roll, if all of my dice were over a total of 27, then I could get 30 points. If I got a perfect strike, so I'd have to have 4 numbers that match, all 8s, all 7s, all 6s, etc. And you might wonder, is it possible to get all 8s? It is, because you can use the d20 because it has the d20 icon. I could have 4 matching numbers. A mass crit means that you have a maximum roll of 6, 8, 10, and 12, and a d20 can replace one of those dice. Or you can use a taunt where you just scratch this out and you just get to mark the d20. And the other thing I should note is that the d20 at the end of each turn marks off the value of what the 20 is at, unless the 20 is used for one of these abilities. And if you ever roll a 20, so where is that elusive 20? If you ever roll that 20, you get to put a tick in the 20 spot. You can see I've actually used this paper before, so my last game I got 2 20s. But anyway, if you get a 20, you put a tick there and they're worth 5 points at the end of the game. And 20, each time you roll a d20, if you scratch off a box, that's worth 1 point at the end of the game. And if you get all the boxes crossed off, then you get a bonus 25 points. So if I roll the numbers all the way from 1 through 20, I'll get a bonus 25 points at the end of the game, plus 5 points per 20. But all that will be in the rules anyway. So what do I want to do? Let's say that this turn I want to take the d10 and the d8. So I'm going to pretend that the rogue and the fighter are fighting here, d10 and d8. I have a 8 and a 7. So what I would do is I would write a 15 in the first spot here. And don't mind my writing, I'm writing in the middle of the air. So then I would start my second turn. So second turn again, I set my d4 to the 1. That's my first action, to roll these dice. So we have anything exciting here. I could go for a low roll, I could go for a high roll. Let's say I'm going to choose to re-roll these dice. Got a pair of 7s there. I could use a third roll. We'll roll these 3 dice. So you can re-roll a dice that you previously set aside if you want to try to go for something different. And then I'll go for my final roll. Let's say that. So I have 3 7s. If I had one more action, I might be able to rotate, and even then I couldn't. So we're going to say that I'll fill in a combined attack. So 7, 14, 21. 21 plus 6 is 27. So I'd put that in a combined attack there. And again, I get to mark off my d20. This time I have an 18. Last time I think I had a 4. I can't remember. But then I go on to my third turn. I roll the dice. And I would, again, continue to select actions, either re-rolling or adjusting dice up and down. For example, let's say I wanted to adjust a die up. I could change this to a 2 and rotate this up. So maybe I want to set those 3 dice aside, and I want to roll these 2 dice. That would be another action. Roll these 2 dice. Oh, now if I want to change that 3 to a 4 as my last action, I could rotate a die down. Let's say I choose to rotate this die down. So now I have 6, 7, 8, 9. That is considered a sequential attack. So 4 sequential numbers, and I just add those dice together. So 8 plus 9, 17, plus 7 is 24. 30 points I get for that sequential attack. So that would go here. And then again, my d20, I have a 5, so I would circle that 5 there. And so I'm not going to play through the full game because you probably would just skip to the end and see what happens anyway. So what would happen is I would keep rolling dice and keep filling in boxes as best I could until I've taken 33 turns, and I have to fill in every single box in the 1, 2, and 3 columns. And then while doing so, I also will hopefully fill in lots of these d20s and hopefully roll a 20 or 2. And then I'll finally see if I get any bonus points. So if I get a high enough score up here, then I get bonus points over here, and that would give me a total upper score for my hero pairs. On the bottom, you don't get any bonus points down here. You just subtotal them and give yourself a total. And then here on your special d20 section, again, for every one that you've circled, you get a point. For every 20 that you rolled, you get 5 points. And if you rolled every number, you get a bonus 25 points. And all those numbers will add together. Let's say at the end of the game, my score was 655. I'm not going to fill it out for you here. I would then compare my final score to the creature's health, and if I meet or exceed the creature's health, I have defeated them. So in this case, the party took down the kobolds. They unfortunately flee away in terror, afraid from these mighty heroes, and we go on to choose a different creature to battle in a future game. So there you have it. That is how to play Roll or Die. I'm not going to play start through finish because I think the game makes sense. just from that. But basically, it's kind of a riff on Yahtzee using polyhedral dice and a special D20 combination, as well as action selection that you don't get in a Yahtzee style game, because you do get to choose whether you roll dice or whether you manipulate a die, which is kind of important when you're rolling dice that have 12 sides and 20 sides versus just standard 6-sided dice. Hopefully this helped explain a little bit about what roll or die is, and you have somewhat of an interest in it. The Kickstarter will be going live in mid-July, and it'll run for about 10 days. So if you're interested, hop on over there, and there may be a Kickstarter exclusive coming to you if we hit a certain funding goal. If you have any questions at all about the game, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this print and play, roll and write polyhedral dice extravaganza. Thanks for watching.